The Dallas Stars defeated the Detroit Red Wings in dominating fashion on Monday night, and it was headlined by Joe Pavelski getting his 1,000th career NHL point. We'll talk about Pavelski's path to greatness. We'll talk about Miro Heiskanen tying a Dallas Stars franchise record, and also give some recognition to Jason Robertson and Rope Hintz and their multi-point evenings on today's episode of Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Bing bong.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, the only daily podcast covering the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis, your local expert on all things Dallas Stars hockey, coming to you on this Tuesday, April 11th. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more and visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And whether this is your first time here or you are a recurring listener, thank you for stopping by and making Locked On Stars your first listen every single day. Subscribe to the show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast at. We're always free and available no matter where or how you choose to listen. And what a fun night it was in the Motor City on Monday. Utter domination from the Dallas Stars, 6-1 win. They saved 19 of 20 shots. Both goalies get into the game. Jake Ottinger, of course, getting the start. And then after a substantial lead through two periods, Pete DeBoer wisely decides to give Scott Wedgwood some reps, but more importantly, give Jake Ottinger some rest as we head down the final week of the NHL regular season. And I imagine that we will see both goalies play a full game sometime this week with a back-to-back on the schedule Wednesday and Thursday against the St. Louis Blues. But Monday night, there's so many good storylines, so many great performances, and we will talk about several of them today. But you can't start today's episode without giving some recognition to Joe Pavelski, who scored his 1,000th career NHL point. And of course, it comes on a tipped shot, a shot from Miro Heiskanen at the top of the Stars' offensive zone. Pavelski in the perfect position to get just the slightest touch on the puck as he does. He gets his 27th of the season. What better way for Joe Pavelski to cross this milestone? An incredible achievement on what has been an incredible career. He adds to his Hall of Fame resume, joins some exclusive company. He's now only the 10th American-born NHL player to reach this feat, joining some of names like Patrick Kane, Keith Tkachuk, and of course, Dallas Stars legend Mike Modano, just to name a few. And all of this on top of 125 playoff points as well. This is just 1,000 career regular season NHL points for Joe Pavelski, and at least one more season left for Captain America as he signed an extension earlier this season to come back and be with this team for at least one more go-around, which is very exciting given the way that he's been playing here over the past month or so and really just all season. He had, of course, kind of his career year last year, setting a new career high in points, and he's getting awfully close to doing it again this season after being named an all-star last year with Dallas. And again, just an outstanding season, outstanding performance all around the board from number 16 on this Star squad. And Joe Pavelski, it quite simply put, just personifies everything that is right within the sport of hockey as we know it today. He checks all of the boxes. He's a great player. He dominates the game. He's been dominating the game for quite some time. He scores goals. He sets up teammates. He plays on the power play. He plays on the penalty kill. He never really ever takes time off during games unless he's resting after recently playing a shift. He's a great teammate off the ice, an incredible locker room presence. He's been a great addition to the leadership group here in Dallas whenever he joined the team a handful of seasons ago, working with guys like Jamie Benn and like Tyler Seguin, coming in knowing he wasn't going to be the captain of the room, but still acts in a way that is like an NHL captain and basically is playing a second fiddle, if you will, in that role to Jamie Benn. He's well liked, of course, in the locker room amongst the Stars fan base, but even just across the NHL. Whenever I talk to people who either cover different NHL teams or are fans of different NHL teams, and they know that I like the Stars and follow them very closely, people always say, I love Joe Pavelski. I love his game. I love him as a person, just the way he interacts with the media, the way that he is portrayed on social media by the Stars as a family man, a loving husband, a loving father. I mean, just an incredibly likable guy, whether you are a fan of him and his team, or even if you're not. And even, talking with guys at this network like JD Young of Locked On Sharks, he's also a fellow Joe Pavelski enjoyer. Pavelski is also an incredibly hard worker. We talk about time and time again about how he's one of the first guys out there on the ice. He works on those shots, the drills in front of the net, whether it's tip-ins or getting redirects, rebounds, always one of the hardest workers day in and day out, despite being in his late 30s. And he's a player that if he wasn't on the ice as quickly and as often as he was every single day, I don't think people would really blink an eye. They'd say he's had a long career. He needs to preserve his body, but yet he still is out there day in and day out, bettering himself. And as a result, I think bettering his team as a whole. And of course, he is that mentor, not just on the ice, but again, off the ice, housing teammates like rookie Wyatt Johnston in his first NHL season. I have a hunch that 15 years from now, we could see Wyatt Johnston teaching the next great generation of NHL players. Hopefully, it's another young and upcoming Dallas Star. But it's Wyatt Johnston, it's Ty Dellandrea, and so many other young players who have come through this organization, even guys like Rope Hintz and Jason Robertson. You have to imagine some of their skill and what they've done this season has to be credited to Joe Pavelski in terms of his mentorship, but also his playmaking ability. He is so incredibly valuable to this franchise, even just beyond a production standpoint. He so desperately deserves to have some more postseason success. And I mean, you look at the NHL and you look at the guys that you say, this guy deserves a Stanley Cup before he retires. And I feel like Joe Pavelski is number one on that list. Again, so likable. I feel like everyone is cheering for him and wanting him to have success. He's come oh so close to winning the cup with the San Jose Sharks a few years ago, but they fall to the Pittsburgh Penguins. And seems like this year and maybe even next season, there's a great chance that Pavs could finally capture that elusive Stanley Cup title. Again, one that he so fittingly deserves. He deserves to hoist Lord Stanley at least once before he hangs up the skates and calls it a career. And I know that myself and many of you will be watching to see as he pursues that journey this postseason. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll shift gears to the blue line. We'll talk about Miro Heiskanen and his record-setting night or record-tying night in Detroit on Monday. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the MLB action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. That's because right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, sign up, place your first bet, and get up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. FanDuel is an official partner of Major League Baseball. I want to thank you again for making the Locked On Stars podcast your first listen every single day. We talked about Joe Pavelski and his big night, 1,000 career NHL points. There was also another player on the other side of the ice, or I guess on the offensive side too. But when you look at the lineup, a player playing on the defensive side of the roster, Miro Heiskanen, also played his part in history on Monday evening in Dallas's 6-1 rout of the Detroit Red Wings. Miro Heiskanen now currently sits at 71 points on the season, which ties Sergei Zubov's 2005-2006 record for the most points in a single season by a Dallas Stars defenseman. Miro Heiskanen continues his string of dominance that really has been prevalent and visible all throughout the entirety of the second half of the season, especially in the month of March. And of course, we talked about it at the end of last week with Mike Heika talking about how Heiskanen's confidence has skyrocketed. We're seeing it reach new heights. No Klingberg, no problem. We know that John Klingberg wasn't necessarily a problem with the Stars, but that his presence kind of negated Miro Heiskanen and didn't allow him to play to his full potential. But now we see Pete DeBoer is utilizing him as the quarterback of the power play, using him plenty in 5-on-5 situations, and he continues to impress night in and night out. Of course, defensively, but now even more so in the second half of this season offensively. And he might not put up the Erik Karlsson type numbers. Karlsson getting to 100 points on the season last night against the Winnipeg Jets, but Heiskanen has been what the Stars have needed, and he has been far and away one of the best two-way defensemen in the league this season, getting it done on both sides of the ice. And also, I mean, now has at least part of franchise history tied with Sergei Zubov. But it really does seem likely over the next two games that we will see Heiskanen get at least one more point and set a new franchise record for the most points in a single season by a Dallas defenseman. Again, just given the way that he's been playing, would not shock me at all, whether it's 5-on-5 or on the power play, that we see number 4 get at least one more point. But he's been stringing together a lot of multi-point games over the past few weeks. And so it wouldn't, again, especially against the competition, the Stars have just been eating these non-playoff teams alive as of late. And I believe the Blues are a little bit better than teams like Detroit and Philadelphia, but still, you have to like Miro Heiskanen's chances going into these last two games in order to set a new franchise record. I'm excited to watch him there. I'm really excited to watch him in the playoffs. As the rest of this regular season continues to wind down, the more just anxious I am to see how he can perform in the postseason. We know what he did a few seasons ago when the Stars were a couple games away from winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, he was one of the team's best players. Just dominating as a guy who was still really fresh to the league, had not been playing a ton of NHL hockey up to that point compared to a lot of other guys that were out there on the ice, both for Dallas and for the other teams that they were playing. But now he's so much more experience. He has last year under his belt. And I think that this season, I mean, there's been pressure put on him, but I think that he's accepted it and he's responded to that pressure very well. And I think that he is ready to lead this team into the postseason and be a huge catalyst for offensive and defensive success in the Stanley Cup playoffs here in 2023. And he also seems to be placing his fingerprints on other guys in this roster and in this lineup, especially the younger guys. You look at guys like Thomas Harley, who seem to be taking after Miro Heiskanen in a lot of ways on defense, but also on offense. You look at the first goal of the game, Thomas Harley, a slick pass, a Miro Heiskanen-esque pass to Roope Hintz, who crashes the net. I mean, a beautiful goal. I mean, you just love to see Miro Heiskanen drive that kind of offense, but now we're starting to see other guys come into this lineup like Thomas Harley, which it's not just Harley, just now clicking and seeing, oh, Miro Heiskanen does this, so I'm going to do this. Harley has been developing his game very well at the AHL level, but you have to imagine that he's done his fair share of study on Miro Heiskanen with just playing alongside him in training camp, preseason games, and watching him and being alongside him over these past, however 3 or 4 regular season games that they've been on the same team in. And you have to imagine that that's rubbing off on Harley in quite a big way, watching Heiskanen do what he does night in and night out. But two defensemen doing their thing, playing some of their best hockey right now. All the confidence in the world coming from number 4 on the blue line. Again, he is going to be an absolute force in the postseason. And whether, again, power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, doesn't matter. Miro Heiskanen is going to find a way to be productive and help get this Stars team in a position to win night in and night out. We're going to take one more quick break, but when we come back, we'll give some flowers to Jason Robertson and Roope Hintz, who combined for 7 points on Monday night. All right, everybody, we are closing out today's episode of Locked On Stars, finishing out the discussion of the Dallas Stars top line. Of course, Joe Pavelski had his big game, 1,000 points in his NHL career. But Roope Hintz and Jason Robertson were also up to their usual tricks on Monday evening. Jason Robertson, a goal and 2 assists. Roope Hintz, 1 goal as well as 3 assists during this game. Roope Hintz now sits at 36 goals on the season. 174 points, which is a new career high. Jason Robertson also sitting with new career highs, 46 goals and 106 points on the 22-23 campaign. Robertson is now tied for second all-time in Stars history, not just Dallas Stars history, Dallas and Minnesota North Stars history, with Dino Ciccarelli. Ciccarelli had 106 points back in the early 80s. Jason Robertson now tied with him. Robertson now is only trailing Bobby Smith from 1981-1982. Smith had 114 points. So Jason Robertson needing 8 points in 2 games in order to at least tie Bobby Smith's record, which might sound a little bit outlandish and far-fetched, but we've seen stranger things from Jason Robertson. Certainly not likely, but would be a really cool story. And again, it's not like Jason Robertson is a stranger to 4-point performances, but if he could do that in a back-to-back situation to close out the regular season, that would just be ludicrous. That would be absolutely insane, but still an incredible evening and season for both Hintz and Robertson, both guys knocking on the door of big goal-related milestones. Again, both guys needing around 4 goals each in order to reach a nice round number. Hintz has never scored 40 goals in a season. He is now 4 away with 36, and Jason Robertson could again be in Mike Modano territory and be the second Dallas Star to score at least 50 goals in a season if he can somehow get 4 goals over the next 2 games against the St. Louis Blues. Would be pretty impressive, but again, is easier said than done. Although, again, we know that both of these guys are no strangers to hat trick performances or explosive goal performances, and especially against a St. Louis Blues team who both players historically play pretty well against. We're just going to have to hold our breath and see what happens with these two on Wednesday and Thursday. But regardless of what happens in these games against St. Louis, both guys should be absolutely proud of the years that they've put together. And Stars fans should be pleased with what they've seen and comforted knowing that they're going to be getting this kind of production from these players for the next several seasons. Robertson got his quote-unquote extension in the offseason. We know that he's due for a bigger extension and a bigger paycheck a few years down the road, but we know he's locked up for the next little bit. And Roope Hintz, of course, signed his big 8-year extension this season. And, you know, we talk about the old duo of Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, and now the torch is kind of being passed to Robertson and Hintz, the next great Stars duo. And then somehow we already have the next great Stars duo seemingly on the way with Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven. But right now, it's Hintz Robertson and what these guys have been doing over the past couple of seasons, really last 3 seasons. But I feel like it hasn't been in the spotlight to the degree that it has been over last season and this season is nothing short of incredible. Robertson continuing to make his case to be in the Hart Trophy discussion. We all know he's not going to win it because Connor McDavid is putting up video game numbers, putting up numbers that we haven't seen since Gretzky and Lemieux. But even Roope Hintz is having an outstanding season, getting close to breaking all of his career highs. He's already broken some of his career highs here this season. Now, 74 points and only 2 goals away from setting a new career high in goals, getting close to the 40-goal marker. We know he's capable of it. And if he's able to play every game this season, doesn't have to miss time due to injury, I think he gets there easily and probably is even at the same pace as Jason Robertson. But those are just big what ifs and things that we're going to have to speculate on for this season. But I know we will see Roope Hintz score 40 goals at least once in his NHL career, if not multiple times, because he is just far too talented and to not reach that milestone. But he and Jason Robertson, their talents on full display Monday night. We continue the trend of talking about players getting hot at the right time heading into the postseason. Pavelski, Heiskanen, Hintz, Robertson. These are the guys that the Stars need to be at their best. Jake Ottinger, too. I talked about how he and Wedgwood both got minutes in this game against Detroit. Jake Ottinger looked very solid, saved some pretty dicey shots early on in that game against Detroit, and the Stars offense was able to give him the insurance that he needed, and they were also able to do the same, I guess, for Scott Wedgwood, although they didn't score once Scott got into the game, but the damage had already been done. And this team is being led offensively right now by their top line and by their number 1 defenseman, and they, again, are playing their best hockey of the season at the perfect time with, again, only 2 games left to go in the 22-23 regular season and a hopefully first round matchup with home ice advantage coming up very, very shortly, just here in the next week or so. All kind of depends on how things shape out across the Central Division. By the time you guys see and hear this, the Minnesota-Chicago game will have gone final. But right now, at the time of recording, end of the second period, Chicago is leading Minnesota by a score of 2-1. But me, of all people, should know that that is not safe, because Sunday night, I went to bed at like 10 o'clock, and the Anaheim Ducks were up 2 goals on the Colorado Avalanche in the third period. And I thought, great, I'll go to sleep, and I'm going to wake up, and the Avalanche will have not gotten 2 points. But oh boy, was I wrong. I knew the Ducks were bad, but oh my goodness, the Ducks blew that lead, and the Avalanche end up getting 2 points. But now we are all big Edmonton Oilers fans tonight, as the Avalanche host Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers in a huge game. Need the Oilers to win that one in regulation. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Stars. Thank you so much again for tuning in and making Locked On Stars your first listen every single day. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, or the follow button on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Remember, we are always free and available no matter where or how you choose to listen. You can also find us on social media at Locked On Stars on both Instagram and Twitter, as well as my personal Twitter account at Dane_Lewis. But I hope you guys have a fantastic Tuesday. We'll be right back here tomorrow, getting you prepared for the Stars' primetime matchup on TNT against the St. Louis Blues. But again, enjoy your Tuesday. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.